The teacher version of my Google Chrome extension for extracting Khan Academy activity logs is a little bit more complicated than the student version. It does roughly the same thing, except I've set it up to output the data to be imported into a spreadsheet. Now, I personally use Google Sheets for my spreadsheet. I haven't used Excel in many years. This should work perfectly fine in Excel if that's your spreadsheet of choice. But I've only really used this with Google Sheets. That said, it should work. So if you run into a problem, just let me know and I'll see if I can help you figure out how to get it to work. So let me walk you through how this works. So I'm currently on the Khan Academy assignments page. This is just where it goes when I click on the Khan Academy header. If I click on my name up here and go to Teacher Dashboard, it's going to take me to a series of classes. Now, I work for a very small Montessori high school. We have a grand total of 15 kids. I've tried a few different ways of setting up my classes, and what I've sort of settled on with my school is to have a class for each of my students, and then I have a couple classes that are groups of students. In a Montessori setting, it's a little bit different than most schools. So, for example, each of my kids has kind of a personalized math class. And then I have them in a couple different science classes. Just to give you some of my background, I come from an engineering background and I've only been teaching for a few years now, but I teach quite a few subjects. I teach numerous math subjects, and then I also teach biology, chemistry, and a computer science program. I'm a little bit of an unusual teacher at our school, but I'm only really able to do this because of Khan Academy. I would not have been able to do this if I'm giving lectures every single day. I only give lectures a few times a week, and for the most part, my kids are self-directed using Khan Academy as their lecturing tool. Anyways, let me jump into how this tool that I've made works. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you with my own account, just so that I'm keeping a little bit of privacy from my kids. So what I'm going to do, I've got. You'll notice here there's kind of individual classes for each of the students. So these are the names of my students, but I've basically created a class around each one, and you'll see it says multiple courses for each of them. And then I also have a biology and a chemistry class down here. And so I'm going to click on this biology. It's going to show the roster of kids, and I'm going to just jump into my own. So I've added myself as a student on this class. When you get in here, it defaults to the last 7 days, which is sort of useful, but it's not great. The way that I set up or the way that we run our school is we run on 6 cycles every year. I know a lot of public schools probably do 4 quarters. We just happen to do 6. And so each of our cycles is 6 weeks long. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to set a custom range to March 1st through the 7th. And so this is going to show the activity that I personally had between March 1st and March 7th. It's showing that I had a total of 131 total learning minutes. And then it breaks down all of my activity with what I was working on, the subject matter. So there's a little pre-calculus there. Here's some biology, some chemistry. So I kind of bounced around a little bit here. And again, one of the problems that I've struggled with this activity log is that my students are looking at many different subjects, and so trying to track down how much time they put into pre-calculus versus biology, it's a little deceiving here with this 131 total minutes, where you can see here that I put a grand total of 2 minutes here into pre-calculus. And another 2 minutes into biology. Oh, actually, it looks like got another 15 here or 18 minutes there. So it's a little bit deceiving what how much time was spent in each subject. What I've learned works fairly well for my students is that I ask them to spend 2 hours per week for each of the subjects that they're working on in Khan Academy. Most of my kids tend to do a math subject and then a science subject in Khan Academy. That's what they tend to use Khan Academy for. So uh, for each of my kids, this number really should be, if they're doing a math subject and a science subject, this really should say 240 minutes or higher for a single week's worth of time. So when I look at a kid that has done 131 minutes over a week, immediately I get on them and say that they're simply not putting enough time in. But again, this can be deceiving. They could have spent 2 hours on just biology and then spent um, 11 minutes on their math. And so it's hard to really tell from this interface. And so that's really what this tool that I've made does, is by clicking up here in the toolbar, I've got a little magic wand here. I'll probably edit this to put some instructions in here. But basically, I just click this get data, and what it's going to do is it's going to search through all of the pages. And you'll see it's basically adding rows. So I've got 32 rows. And then it's going to pop up this save as window. So this is going to save this as a comma separated variable file, CSV file. I'm going to create a new folder in here. I'll say week 1. And then I'm just going to save this. So this is just going to save this as this text file. And this saves this on my computer. You can kind of see this is what it looks like inside there. And again, this alone isn't very useful. Where it becomes useful is when you put it into a spreadsheet. And so this is how you do it in Google Sheets. I go into File, and then I do Import. And then I'm going to go to Upload. And now all I basically do is I drag this into the Upload window. And I'm going to do Append to Current Sheet. And I click, and then this is all detect automatically, and then just leave that as yes. So basically doing append to current sheet, then I'm going to hit import data. So here's what it is. I've got a spreadsheet that I created, and I'll share this spreadsheet for you to make use of. And you might come up with different ways of doing this. But basically what this is doing is I've got one sheet that is just this activity log raw. And so this is going to show all of the stuff that's here, but just in an editable spreadsheet. So each of the columns, it's showing this student, their activity, the type, so whether it was an article, a video, exercise, or quiz. And then it's the subject, and then the time, the start time that they worked on it. These levels change and correct total. I personally don't find, right now, I haven't found them super useful. I'll probably make use of them in the future. And then it's got this minutes column that is what I find very useful. And then I've added a couple on here. This is, again, specifically for my school. So we break up the year into 6 different cycles. And so I've got some, these columns will show which cycle it's in. It will show which week number it's in. And then I've added this end date time. This is something I'm currently working on. It's still kind of a work in progress. So what I tend to do is I will just highlight this data. I'm pressing Control D, which is going to it'll fill it down. And so this is basically doing a calculation based on the start date time. So it's calculating which week number it is based on the date time. And so if I were to go forward, let me do this again. I'll do March 8th through the 14th. I'll hit confirm. Okay, so yeah, so this is another little bug in the Khan Academy log. You'll see here it says 61 total minutes. It's showing no results, and this happens to be because of the pagination that they've built in. What I've found is that if you click one of these and then go back to all activities, it'll kind of refresh it. This is just a bug in Khan Academy. They'll fix it at some point. I've posted that as in their bug report. Okay, so again, this is my account. I'm now doing kind of my second week here, and I've got 61 total learning minutes. We can just kind of quickly see there's a little bit of chemistry, a little bit of biology, and a little bit more here. So I'm going to click the little magic wand. I'll click Get Data. It's going to scroll through each of these rows. I'm going to make myself a new folder. What I find is I break mine up by weeks, and unfortunately, the current version does one student at a time, and so which is a little bit annoying. I can not imagine having 150 kids and having to do this, but it's possible. Okay, so again, I'm going to walk through this one more time. I'll go File. I'm going to do Import. Go to Upload. This time I'm going to choose week 2. And then I'll drag my file in there. I'm going to append it to the current sheet and import the data. And now you'll see that there's some new records here. So again, this is now doing a new dates and times. And you'll see over here that these are no longer filled in because I've added new ones. And so what I do is I select the last one, and then I go to the bottom one. I do Control D, which is going to fill it down. This is what I wanted to point out. So you'll see here that now there's week 2. And so what I was able to do, relatively easily is by using this formula up here, I can just very quickly calculate which week this applies to. And so now I know which cycle I'm dealing with and which week I'm dealing with. So that was sort of what I wanted to show there. I've got a couple other tabs here, other sheets. This one is logging it by the subject and week. And so this one will do kind of a summary. So it will take the raw data and then look at all of the subjects and then just sum up how much time they spent. And so you can see here this student, Steve Nelson, which happens to be me, on week 1 for chemistry, spent an hour and a half. Week 2 spent 6 minutes. And so there's certainly some debate as to how long they should spend in Khan Academy. I think any teacher can quickly see that somebody that's spending an hour and a half is going to learn a lot more than somebody that's spending 6 minutes. And so, how much time you need to put into this, as a teacher, you can figure that out. What works best for you. But I think we can kind of all agree that if a kid's basically not spending any time in there, they're not learning anything. And so, anyways, this particular sheet will kind of group each of the subjects together and then break it down by week and then show a summary of how much time they've spent. What I've found works really well is having a graphic. And so I've got this third sheet that gives me this report. It's a little bit hairy at the moment here. Let me see if I can fix this. Let's see, we go from A3 to A7. Some of this stuff you're going to have to play around with. I'm definitely recording. Can you give me a minute, please? Sorry for the interruption. Anyways, I found this report is very helpful. So what I've got this to do is it gives me kind of a chart. And again, what I'd like to do with my kids is try to get them to do 2 hours each week. And so this will show just in a visual format. When they have each of the subjects, when it's blue, that is that's good. Red is relatively bad. I also have purple. If they get above the 120-minute mark, it'll show when they're going above the time. And then it allows you to filter by student and subject. So I've selected just one of the students, which was me. Oops, uncheck that. So it's filtered by student, and then you can filter it by subject. So I find this very useful. I give them reports every week to show how much time they've spent on each thing, and then when their times are too low or too high, I try to redirect them to get them to work a little bit harder. Anyways, I will make this spreadsheet public and also have the video on how to install this extension. I hope this was of use to you. And if you have questions, feel free to ask. I will do my best to answer them. Good luck.